We did get Exceptional X-Men number 3 this week. Eve Ewing writing, Carmen Canero on art. I actually wasn't planning to read the comic book. I don't really care about Exceptional X-Men. It's not a good series. But our good friend Sully told me it was so bad that it warranted consideration for Worst of the Week. And boy, was he right, Doc. There's nothing worse that came out this week, including the question all on the Watchtower, which I thought was unreadable. I feel so stupid because at one point, I didn't think Eve Ewing, when she was doing Ironheart, was particularly good, but it wasn't bad. It was certainly better than any Ironheart we had. And I was like, there's potential here. We might actually have a comic book writer. And she has proven me wrong time and time again. Outlawed, absolutely terrible. Her work on Black Panther, unreadable. And somehow she's actually bottomed out with Exceptional X-Men. I definitely feel stupid for ever mentioning her as somebody that had potential in the comic book industry.
Okay, the way I look at Eve Ewing is pretty clear. It's somebody that had absolutely no business being added to the comic book industry. The only reason she got in is because she got recruited by internet weirdos based on her haircut and the fact that she's from Chicago. But it was very clear that, kind of like the first couple of issues of Ta-Nehisi Coates, where it was very clear that the editors were basically spending all of their time trying to get something even approaching a competent script out of them. Maybe that's what was happening with Eve Ewing on those first couple of issues of Ironheart. And then we all forgot about it and walked away because none of us were actually reading Ironheart at any point in time.
It's weird. So we have Emma and Kitty having an argument. Emma obviously is being kind of like holier than thou. I'm better than everybody. She actually decides to leave. She's like, you know what? Screw it. I'll leave the 4 of you alone. Kitty just starts like karate fighting her in the fucking hallway. It was so weird.
Plot is not something that Eve Ewing seems to understand how it functions either. She started writing a plot where Emma leaves, but then she's like, well, I don't know where to go from there. So I'm just going to change my plot as if the pages that occurred prior to this and the panels and the story didn't happen. Instead, I'm going to go with the way that I want it to happen. And it's like she just shoved 2 completely different plots together. Then that's where it's going, because logically from panel to panel does not make any logical sense, but it's where Eve Ewing needed to go to tell the story she wanted. So rather than go back and fix that in order to end up at the place she wanted to end up, she just left it as is and just said, fuck it. Nobody's going to read this shit anyway, so who cares?
Of course, we're getting like the stupid 3 kids that she's mentoring in the background. It's 2 female characters fighting each other. And of course, one of them's going like, I don't know who she is, but she's kind of amazing. And then the stupid Alejandro dude's like, my money's on Kitty. She's got the eye of the tiger. It's the start of really bad dialogue that continues on into basically infinity, because that's what it feels like this comic book lasts.
Is this 1982? Is fucking Journey going to start playing in the background? This is abysmal. Based on reading this, I don't know if Eve Ewing has had an actual conversation in person with another human being that wasn't entirely essentially scripted.
It's so weird. And I almost was relating to Alejandro because he's like, Kitty, you were just throwing hands with this lady in the hallway, but now we're having a tea party. I'm confused. Yes, I am very fucking confused. So you wanted her to leave. She was going to leave. You said, no, you can't leave, decided to fight her, and then took her into your apartment to have tea together. How does this make any fucking sense? And then it's just wall-to-wall dialogue for like fucking 15 pages straight.
Not only that, but it's her weird Indian roommate named Pretty berating both of them for the damage to the stairwell and not getting the security deposit back. Figuring it out is nonsensical. But so is the entire plot of this comic. It's utterly and completely nonsensical.
But of course, Preeti, the roommate's like, you know what? My aunt had a warehouse. I'll just gift it to you and get a tax exemption, and you can use that as your danger room. Because that would just make a whole lot of sense after she saw her destroy the fucking stairwell in her apartment and was so worried that she might not get her fucking money back.
If she's so worried about getting her security deposit back, why doesn't she go live in the warehouse that apparently she owns? It's probably cheaper than paying rent. They needed a convenient plot device to get them a space to live in or to operate in, because apparently Emma couldn't just hand them one too?
Anything would be more interesting than this. Like, really, I mean, a comic book about a prostate exam would be more engaging than this fucking book. So they end up at the warehouse. It used to be a ballet studio. She's like, it's got lots of mirrors. Okay, that's a big selling point. And this Alejandro dude, he's basically a walking mood ring. He can sense your feelings, and your feelings make him turn different colors. He is the biggest sad sack shit character I've seen in a while. He might be as bad as Paul. That's how bad this character is fleshed out. And of course, we get the fucking pronoun game. Everybody, announce who you are, announce your pronouns. In an interesting fact, and he's like, I'm Alejandro, he, him. Fun fact, trees need wasps to pollinate. Sometimes if you bite a fig, there's a dead wasp inside. He is the fucking worst.
And he's also so very, 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 very obviously gay. When he starts trying to fuck Bobby Drake in the next issue, don't be fucking surprised, everybody. Oh, he's one of the most annoying characters that I've seen added to a comic book in a while. And this is a comic book industry that does include Paul. He's worse than Paul. If that was conceivable, they managed to do it. Once again, comes back to my theory about Marvel Comics. If you think you can't get any worse, you merely lack sufficient imagination. I generally like Carmen Carnero's art. I honestly believe Carmen is drawing every single character to be the ugliest possible representation of them. Every single character in this comic is hideous. The definitely trans bronze character, even Kitty looks, she managed to, Carmen Carnero managed to ugly up Emma Frost in this comic. They tried doing something semi-interesting with that Alejandro dude's power set when the Asian muscle chick knocked over a room divider things. Somehow he knew that was what was going to happen. And they're asking if he's precog. And he's like, no, but I could sense that she was anxious and that something blah, blah, blah. And so he just jumped to that conclusion. And somehow he knew that she was going to knock shit over.
And then we get the code names because everyone's got to have a code name. You can't just be like, yeah, my mutant name is Melee or my mutant name is Bronze. You actually need to have like a big brainstorming session to talk about all this stuff. And Bronze is like, I've got a very bad idea. I've got names for everybody. Melee, Bronze, Exo, because you like to change colors. And then, of course, Alejandro. These are perfect. I'm shocked that he wasn't crying.
It was in her coloring book. What the fuck? Like, here, look, I made little doodles of everybody. Now they all have their own names.
I can't wait till she illustrates her like eating Melee in Alaska when they get trapped in the fucking building.
Damn it, you beat me to it. You fucking beat me to it. I was waiting to make the same joke. Yeah, like, look, Kitty went out and found the retard class of X-Men.
Yes.
I feel like there's a giant joke in here where like Kitty's been just trying to keep them from like hurting themselves.
It's written with the sophistication and maturity level of a comic book that I would imagine my 9-year-old would sketch out. That's like the depth and levels of the characters and how they feel. And Eve Ewing, I believe, is like 40. She's supposed to be an adult. You would think that she'd be able to attack this and have something there to say about anything. But everyone speaks like they're on, I guess, Blue Sky now. The exact same annoying voice that we've been getting from these new characters and writers from Marvel for like, I don't know, 7 years. And it never works.
Well, I think Eve Ewing might fall into that category of like terminally online, arrested development, adult women that like self-diagnose themselves as autistic. It's the only thing they can do to explain why they are still mentally 13 at 45.
Have functional relationships.
Yes.
And I know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Before social media, what women would do is they would go and get like psychology degrees to explain why they weren't the problem. It was actually their boyfriend that leaving them was the problem. And now they just self-diagnose themselves as autistic.
And then they go to a therapist and get really, really mad when their therapist doesn't validate their self-diagnosed mental illness. Yeah, there's a reason why so many chicks would go and get psychology degrees, because they were all screwed up and they thought they could fix themselves. And if they can't fix themselves, they'll fix their friends.
I don't think they wanted to fix themselves. They wanted a reason to blame anyone but themselves. Like, I got a psychology degree. I know that it's you. Like, no, it was you the whole time. At the end of the book, when she was writing the script, she's like, oh my goodness, there were 2 pages of action, and this is a superhero comic book. So they're in the studio kind of arguing with each other, and all of a sudden, like 100 little miniature devils show up, and they just start attacking them out of nowhere. Just the most random fucking thing in the history of comic books happens.
Every single person reading this comic and every person that's in this comic should have immediately just turned to Emma and go, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, I wanted to ask Eve Ewing, what the fuck are you doing? You were so lazy with this plot and you wasted so much time accomplishing nothing that you got to a point like, oh my goodness, I need action. I'll just randomly throw imaginary devil guys in here.
Well, she needed to do her pronoun page. That's really, really important to the comic book. And you needed at least the 1 page with the retarded trans whiplashy chick showing her amazing sketchbook
Doodles.
Powers. All that stuff was super duper duper important. Fights in superhero comics, not really necessary. Validating each other's feelings, absolutely necessary. Everybody complimenting everyone else, 100% more necessary than you could possibly ever imagine. Anybody that disagrees is a liar and a bigot and a phobe.
Yeah, you get to a comic book like this and you get to the end and you're like, I will never get those 18 minutes. Well, it felt like infinity, but it was probably 18, 25 minutes of my life back again. And I blame Sully, and I blame Jim, and I blame you, Doc, because we have to do worst of the week. And this is awful stuff. You know, I think I saw that Gabe, obviously friend of the channel, I love Gabe. He gave this like a 6.5 out of 10. I think Gabe is crazy. That's why he's called Sus Gabe. I give it a 1 out of 5, 2 out of 10 max. And that's just because the art wasn't atrocious.
I disagree. I think the art was pretty fucking awful in this comic. I think it's easily Carmen Carnero's worst penciling job. I give this a 0.5 out of 5. This was abysmal on a level that honestly takes a degree of effort to achieve. If I wanted a comic written by a writer on a short bus, this is exactly what I'd want. If you wanted to know the comic book that would be made by the special needs class in your high school 25 years ago, this is it. I blame you for making me read this. I blame Jim. I absolutely blame Gabe. I'll give Eric a little bit of a pass on this one because he just wants to share the misery with everyone else. That's what I expect out of Eric. I blame whoever it was that originally floated the idea that Eve Ewing should get to write Ironheart because she was also from Chicago and had the same haircut as Riri Williams. Whoever that fucking asshole was on Twitter 5 years ago that came up with this brilliantly retarded idea, that's who I'm blaming. You know what? Fuck it. I'll go back to Brian Michael Bendis. If Brian Michael Bendis didn't want to create a replacement Iron Man to satisfy his adopted daughter, none of this shit happens. Mr. Testicle Head, fuck you. You're to blame for this. I hate you.
You're on notice, Bendis. We know what you did in comic books. And I do want to say thank you very much to Doc for joining me today to talk about and review the worst comic book of the week. By far, even worse than The Question All Along the Watchtower, which was atrocious. Exceptional X-Men number 3 did not disappoint. It is as bad as Sully said it was. And if you would like the fully unedited version of this review, as well as our conversation about the things that Tom Revort had to say about his time on X-Men, it's live right now on Think Critical Patreon, Doc Unfiltered. There's a link in the video description. Hope to see you there. Lots of great stuff going on the Patreon. More podcasts than you could possibly handle to get you through a very mundane work week.